And we are live. Hello, hello, everybody. My name is Alan. I go as Migrant Scribble on the internet, and this is Ariana.
Hi everyone, my name is Ariana. I go by Ariana the Poet online. That's where you can find me, and you can find Alana and myself both at Write With Us Live on Instagram, which hopefully is how you found your way here today. So welcome to today's workshop. We're super excited to have you. Today is going to be guided free writes again. People seem to really enjoy that workshop when we offered it last month, and so I thought it might be just nice to have a second round to see where people are at right now and just give you a space to write about whatever you've been thinking about and maybe need to get out onto paper. Um, Today's workshop is actually going to be a little bit different. We have a special surprise for you in a moment, but we just wanted to go over a few quick technical things. So first, hello if you're watching this live, and hello if you are going to be watching this in the future on YouTube, because as you know, all our videos are archived on YouTube, so you can come back and watch them later. I see folks are already saying hi in the chat and dropping their location, so please let us know. Say hi in the chat. We want to know how you're doing and where you are tuning in from. So while y'all are doing that, just a few quick things. As usual, for today's workshop, there will be a Google Doc to follow along with. You don't need to because we will be screen sharing, but if you want to follow along with the workshop, the link for that is in the description box right below the video, so you can access it from there. As well, later on, we're probably going to have time for sharing as usual. And so if you want to do that, all you'll need to do is send us a DM on Instagram at Write With Us Live and let us know that you want to share. And so we can bring you in later on during the sharing portion for that. So hi, everybody. Welcome back. And we actually have a special guest today. We haven't done this since we started the workshop series 7 weeks ago. But we thought it might be nice if instead of Alana and myself reading poems from other people, if we brought someone else on to read their poems. And so we're about to bring on a poet that we really admire and are very excited to share their work with you. So Alan, would you mind doing the honors?
Absolutely. I'm so excited. So, gonna introduce JR, who's going to be joining us and sharing some poems. JR Mahang is Black. They are a Garifuna Belizean American poet from the south side of Chicago. Their second collection of poems, Since When He Have Wings, is available through Pizza Pie Press. So if y'all can, give some love while we to JR, we're gonna add them to the stream right now. Hi, JR.
Oh, hi. Wow. On StreamYard, there's a message that says you're in the show, and there's an exclamation point, and I was like, oh, wow, there should be, like, music, and I should be celebrating. This is very exciting. Hi, thank y'all for having me, and thank y'all who I cannot see through StreamYard also for having me. Yeah. Should I just get into, like, reading things, or...
Yeah, if you want to say anything about what you're reading from, who you are, that's not in your bio.
Yeah. So I am here. I'm a poet. My name's JR. I'm very awkward, if you cannot tell already. And I am reading a mix of things. So right now I'm in the process of putting together a manuscript. And a lot of that has involved looking at poems I have previously written and largely being like, oh, wow, the edits that I wanted to make, I should still make. But also has been about thinking about and rethinking, all right, what are how do I want to show up to the space of this poem? What are the politics that I want this collection to have, and how do I want those to show up throughout the course of these poems? And so a lot of the poems I'm reading today are poems I'm considering for this manuscript, and also are in process. Yeah, I'm hoping y'all will be down to, I guess, be a part of this process with me, if that's cool. I would just start reading stuff. This first poem or set of poems Um, yeah, I should mention. So no, let me just start reading stuff. Okay. Uh, from my father, I learned of 7 siblings. One, a fisherman who swallowed the sea. His apprentice, a boy with greedy hands. The fisherman would take in water while the boy grabbed fish at the sea's bottom, each time waiting to the last moment to hop aboard the boat. The fisherman scolded the boy, but he would not listen. And one day he missed his signal to come back. The fisherman spat out the sea, and the boy, hands full of fish, was overcome with water. Family is both the boy and the brother, sinking while swallowing the salt whole. Grandpa, his siblings, the haunt in my hands. My hands, their tremble, the overproof to calm. The overproof is balm. The overproof is care. The overproof is thirst. My grandfather took from the family to make offerings to a ghost. His brothers caught the man but could not seize the spirit and so tried to beat it from his body. I met him once. He showed a gun by its handle in case his brothers showed. Dad said back home, they row you out to sea and drop you right in. Says we don't all swim where I'm from, but we sure know how to not drown. There were 7 siblings who became 6. A robbery in some stories, an infidelity in others. Always a bullet that killed their brother. Beloved, the siblings grieved how they knew. That's like a long poem or a series of poems. Shit, I should have stated earlier, content warning in these poems for like substance things, for anti-Black violence, and for like references and mentions of trauma and abuse of different kinds. Yeah, I apologize for not stating that earlier as well. Yeah, but that's like a series of poems that I'm kind of working through about my my like family. So on my dad's side, my great grandfather came to Belize from China and was likely an indentured servant, and many of his kids, if not all of his kids, like struggled with like alcohol abuse, and yeah, is like a thing that I have dealt with as well. And so a poem that's trying to like work through, all right, what are the linkages between that like lineage of harm that we have inherited and passed down to each other in different ways and are continuing to grapple with. This next poem, yeah. The title is My Cousin Asked Me About the South Side, which is also the first few words. My cousin asked me about the South Side, and I say the cold starts well before winter. Where I'm from, October means get your coat and gloves. Save the hat for November. You'll want to wait till at least Thanksgiving to cover all the way up because the cold don't stop till after it's supposed to, and we like it that way. I say there's only a few times we know we're alive for sure, and one is when we feel the freeze in our bones, a shiver, some aching ask of our frames to be preserved. At its worst, the cold is deadly. And at its best, the cold is killing someone other than you. And how can you not love a city so honest to hold you with its icy knuckles and whisper in its winds how it wants you gone over and over again? So when it starts to warm, everyone starts to come out again, and kids start falling dead like snow, we can look back at the first green we saw growing in Washington Park and say it like we do each year. We survived that last winter. We can make it through the summer too. On why I leave parties without saying farewell. There is something to be said of the moment before the moment, when the person you love or are meant to love or who is meant to love you sees your begging eyes and shows only their teeth, a clock's emerald face, a light fixture to the left, and a second to the right, the TV guide scrolling up and an infomercial for nonstick pans on the screen. So no wonder when I depart each time it is unnatural to say goodbye, to bring attention to the way I learned to leave myself tick, of the clock's mechanic. I remember thinking the tick could not have been more loud. I remember wishing myself a home in the distance between its sound. There was a time when I did not know to disappear. I remember searching for a bridge back. I found a well, myself at its bottom, heaving in emerald song. That poem is like part of a series of poems that I'm working on that discuss like dissociation. I don't really know how to write about dissociation. If any of y'all do, let me know, and we gonna figure that out together. It's like weird, like writing about not being in a body while also like wanting that feeling to be present in the body of a poem. Yeah, just like what? Those are my feelings on that. It's a poem about my grams machete. So in Belize we say machete, or Belizeans say machete, but many others say machete. My grams machete. My grams machete long, a black-handled thing. Blade bleak with rust, but still wave and break a blade of grass. Crack a coconut, peel a plantain, chop a tree stump in the backyard. Well, chop your dirty hands if you don't leave my kitchen. Heck! My grams machete steady, to the left, right, and front. Will sign a cross and beckon the archangel, be our protection against the wickedness. My grams machete a cutlass in Trinidad, a smile on our south side porch, stands at attention in uniform. House dress over sweatpants and hoodie, sandals on the feet. My grams machete not made for this cold, not at all. It's real harsh when it snows, keeps to its room to remember a heat like Dangriga's. A knock at the window can shake my grams machete. Believe it's still steady and prepared to cut, can put itself at eve too. Jehovah's Witness, a copy of the watchtower in tow. Grams machete say, here, a place the Lord's children are welcome, but cannot stay. Jehovah understand. My grams machete stay near the front door, in the kitchen closet, by the back, under the bed, next to the Ray and nephew. How are we doing on time? By we, I mean, how am I doing on time?
You're doing great on time. Also, we don't really care about time. We are very much enjoying your poems. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Oh, wow. I feel happy about that and also awkward because I don't know what to do with compliments. Okay. Next poem. Oh, dear. No, I'm going to still read this because this poem means a lot to me. This is a poem called Angels on the South Side after Chance the Rapper. Which, yeah, the oh no is for Chance the Rapper because, like, what is this man doing? What is this man doing? But also, yeah, his song Angels was really important to me when it came out. And he's still doing things now. Oh, dear. But we could, yeah. Tweet me about Chance. We could talk about that another time. When we sing angels, we don't mean cherubs floating and pointing and playing harps and shit. We're talking about little brown kids, all in their diapers, looking like my brother with his nappy cloud head back in the day when he used to climb atop anything he could and yell, catch, to whoever was below. That boy made it on the rooftop once when he was about 5 years old. He giggled and trounced about as Gram whispered her prayers, and Dad circled the house in case the kid jumped, and I don't believe in a God all the time. But Gram says Lord only knows the way how we got him down that day safe from any sort of harm. The kind we imagined for him. I mean, Michael didn't see that mess. So the way he got himself to jump was that he never thought of falling. So then it's only a flight, and I ponder the words while watching a dash cam video of a body that looks like his and mine brought back into the earth it was born from. I cannot know for sure if Laquan felt he was falling, or if Rakia taught him how to think it a jump, but I know some of my people will only leave the south side in the belly of a casket. And I know that heaven's gates are lower than the white picket joints we be seeing in them suburbs, and I know the choir looks like my people. And when we sing angels, we mean the ones who wear hoodies and histories as robes heavy enough for the earth to eat them early. And so this is how we cradle them back to peace. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I have a lot more to say about that poem right this second. Yeah, that poem was important to me when it was written. I think it was important to me. Is it cool if I read like one series of poems about my gram and then, or is time up? I don't know. I'm Caribbean. I don't know.
We definitely want to hear the poems about your gram.
Okay. So this is a series of like goofy poems where I was like, I just woke up one day and was like, what if my grandma was just in a bunch of like classic hip hop videos? And I just started writing about that. I think I'd like to continue this at some point, but these are the ones I have so far. Portrait of my grandmother in 90s hip hop videos. Wu-Tang ain't nothing to fuck with. There's a fire and an explosion at the beginning. Inspector Deck opens the chorus. Everyone is in their hoodies and ski masks. Gran steps out wearing her black hat and a jacket over a hoodie, over her nightgown, over a pair of sweatpants. She is holding her machete. Gran scolds the Wu-Tang Clan and says, "Cho, make that noise. You boys grown and know how to act? Want to blow up the whole building. What is that? Using those foul words in your mouth." Gran becomes more fervent. She shakes her machete at the Wu-Tang Clan. "You boys go home from here before I beat every jack one of you. The Jizza, the Rizzo, Old Dirty Bastard, Method Man, Ghostface, Inspector Deck, Raycon, You God, and Master Killer run home promptly. Everyone makes it home in time for supper. The video ends with Graham sitting comfortably in her big chair, watching The Days of Our Lives as she eats tortilla with stewed chicken feet. Beep, beep. Who got the keys to the Jeep? Missy pulls up in a black Hummer, says she is going to the beach but stops short before vroom. Graham raises her hand from her front porch and yells, "Gal, heck, you gonna leave without me? Cha." Graham ambles to the passenger seat in her big black coat, which she's got over her nightgown, draped over a hoodie and sweatpants. Your cousin Sil called and asked for powder money. "Take me to Jewel. We need margarine." As it turns out, Graham's also needed to buy a calling card, find cassava, pick up her prescriptions, and get her lotto numbers. Missy never makes it to the beach. Also, I don't know if there are any Belizeans on this call, but shout out to your auntie named Sil. Everyone has a cousin or auntie named Sil, if you can Belize. That's just what it is. Juicy. Graham walks into Biggie's mansion wearing her big coat over a hoodie, over her nightgown, over a pair of sweatpants. Everyone is partying by the pool when she realizes there are no slots. Graham says, "Oh no, this is no casino." I left my wallet in El Segundo. The video is almost entirely the same up until Q-Tip mentions he ordered enchiladas and he ate them, while Ali Shaheed Muhammad only had a fruit punch. The visual cuts to Graham in her jacket over a hoodie over her nightgown, which she is wearing over a pair of sweatpants. She's cooking rice and beans, says, "You drive that far and get food, and this boy have what? Juice? What kind of thing that? You eat and let your friends starve? That is not the way. Sure, El Segundo and no food." Graham heaps a small mountain of rice on a plate for Ali. He begins to say he's not hungry, but Graham cuts him off. "Shush, boy, eat," before addressing Q-Tip. "Now go to the store and get me coconut milk. I use it all on this boy rice." Tip reminds Graham he doesn't have his wallet. Graham replies, "That's your problem, not mine. Go get my milk." All right. Yeah, thank y'all.
Thank you for reading. Oh my, the way you ended is just so joyful. Thank you for offering us that. I just want to let you know that on the comments, there's so much love for your poetry, your grandma, and just I mean, there's also quotes that people are typing up of your
Oh my
poems.
God.
You're reading.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank y'all. Yeah, thank y'all for like holding space. Yeah, any types of hold love and space for my grandmother. That means a lot to me. So much love and appreciation to you, Alana and Ariana, and much love and appreciation to y'all in the chat and at home and not at home and wherever your internet connection is having you right now.
And I just want to say too, I've heard a lot of your poems, JR, and I hadn't heard that series about your gram. Those were like hilarious. I also love the dedication to describing your gram's uniform in every poem. I thought that was great. Yeah, and I'm also just curious about you talked about like being in the process of working on earlier poems that you wanted to make edits to, and like sort of what that process was like. I'm curious what this process of writing these like poems about your gram in 90s hip hop videos specifically, what that process has been like for you.
Yeah. Huh. I think initially it came from texting myself. Like I had the thought of it and I started texting my siblings at first. And they were like, yeah, I don't know, but that just sounds funny. And so I started writing different ones. I actually a while ago went to Facebook and was like, what are like classic 90s hip hop videos that folks suggest I watch? Because I was just on a kick where I was watching a bunch anyways. And so I started watching a bunch and like yeah, there was like a thread that maybe at some point I can dig up. And yeah, watching those videos and being like, what are the different like trends that I'm seeing? But I think also one of the things that I've been like thinking through around that series is like what it means to like be an indigenous person in exile. Like that's what it means to be Garifuna. We like, yeah, our people were on like St. Vincent and then were exiled from St. Vincent to Roatan Island and then exiled again, which is how we've like ended up primarily in like Belize, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, and then various cities in the United States and elsewhere. And like, yeah, finding a place of belonging within a Blackness that is like, how do I want to put this? Yeah, finding a place of belonging within, I guess, like an African American Blackness, which is kind of like what I've seen my mother do, and I think what has happened for me and many other Garifuna people. Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've like been thinking through as well is like, what is the, yeah, how do I situate my own relationship or like the relationship of like Garifuna Black folks with like uh, you know, Black folks whose like ancestors experienced chattel slavery within the United States, or who have like experienced slavery, whose ancestors have experienced like slavery elsewhere, which is, you know, like not the case for the Garifuna, or at least like historically that's not the narrative around like how we understand ourselves. Yeah, so I think like those things have been coming up. And as far as process, at least right now where I'm at in that process is just trying to learn more. Been trying to learn more about like, yeah, reading about like specifically Belizean movements for like liberation, learning more about like abolition, learning more about like indigenous, like different indigenous peoples, like understanding of their relationships to whatever land they are on, if they also are like in a form of exile. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that response. And yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to like transition into the like workshop things. But really quickly before you go, I have a copy of your chapbook here, And then this is an older chapbook, and I'm wondering for folks who might be approaching this chapbook for the first time, if there's anything that you want them to know going into these poems.
Yeah. Also, thank you for doing that. I definitely was like grab the copy to like show. So thank you for being better. If there's anything you know. I mean, like one is and going back through these poems, there are a number of poems in here that I was like, oh, these poems were about gender transition, and I didn't realize that that's what they were about until I was like in a more conscious way. And so I think there are poems that are about gender that, if anything, this chapbook was written during a period where I think I was coming to an understanding of like what my gender wasn't without being able to articulate with any language for real, like what it is or what it was. Not that like that's language I necessarily have precisely right now, but I feel I'm closer to it. I think also one of the big things with this chapbook is written at a time where I was like thinking a lot about death, like my own and for like others around me, and for like Black folks, for Indigenous folks, for Afro-Indigenous folks. And the hope for the chapbook was to be able to write a series of poems that provided different ideas and like opportunities to care for like each other and to care for ourselves while in that space. And I hope that for those who decide to pick it up, that they leave with something in that thing. And also just thank you even for considering, for listening.
Yeah, and thank you so much, JR, for coming on with us, for sharing poems with us, especially poems that are in process. I feel like those are always really exciting to hear because you can't hear them anywhere else. So thank you for sharing poems with us and sharing your thought process behind the poems. If folks want to pick up a copy of JR's chapbook, some of the poems I think that they read today are in here. Like the poem about My Cousin Asked Me About the South Side is in here. And I think the poem, the Chance the Rapper poem, is that in here too? So you can find those poems in here. And if you want to support JR's work, I believe we have their Venmo in the YouTube description. It's just JR-Mahong. So you can support their work by picking up a copy of their chapbook and sending them a few dollars on Venmo. So thank you so much, JR, for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to sit with your work for this. The remainder of the work has been just right with what you've given us. I hope you have a good summer.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello. That was so great. I'm happy we were able to bring someone in. Oh, I wish we would do this all the time, even though we're like almost ending the series.
Yeah, that was so wonderful. I wasn't sure like how I wasn't sure what to expect or how it was gonna go. But that was really wonderful. Did y'all enjoy that? If you did, let us know in the chat. That was really exciting for me personally to hear. I feel like I also just haven't heard people read. I haven't been to like a reading like that in a while. So that was really special, I think. And as we move into the workshop for today, we're actually going to be using ghost lines that are mostly from this chapbook. So maybe hearing JR read their work can stir something in you to write something. Okay, and like I said, they're oh, thank you, Alan. Right now, projected, we have the Google Doc. We also have the purchase link to buy JR's chapbook. So you can purchase it online. JR is also on Twitter, and they have a website. So there are plenty of places you can find them on the internet if you want to stay connected to JR and their work, which we definitely, obviously recommend. So moving into today's workshop, we're just doing guided free writes again. And so go ahead and get whatever your surface you're going to be writing on, whether it's your laptop, Microsoft Word, your journal, go ahead and get that ready to go. And we're going to just do some free writing today. I think it's nice sometimes to not have such a structured kind of prompt. I mean, I feel like everyone is going through so much right now that I feel like there's a lot at the back of everyone's minds. And what I like about ghost lines and free writing is that you never know what's going to come up. But sometimes that process of doing a free write can be really helpful and somewhat liberating as well, to just allow your mind to go there. So what we're going to do with the ghost lines is that I'm going to give you a line, like ghost line number 1, I don't want to tell a lie. And it'll be your job to, well, not your job, but you can write in response to this line. So you write this line down on your paper and then you finish it and then just keep writing from there. And since we're free writing, the goal is to like basically not pick up your pen. Like don't take your pen off the paper. So keep writing the entire time. So I'll give you the first line, I don't want to tell a lie, and then a few minutes later, I'll give you the second ghost line to just fold into your writing. And so for the first round of ghost lines, 1 through 5, I would like to challenge you to write a continuous piece of writing. So not like 5 separate poems, but like all one piece. And the other part about that is with free writing, you know, sometimes things like don't make sense when you just write them off the top of your head, and that's okay. I want to invite you to embrace that process of figuring it out as you're writing it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and start with ghost line number 1. If any questions come up for you, by the way, please just drop them in the chat if you are confused about anything or need any assistance. So the first ghost line is, I don't want to tell a lie. So finish this line, keep writing, and in a few minutes, I'll let you know when to move on to the next one. Okay, go ahead and move on to the second ghost line. There was a time when. Okay, go ahead and move on to the next ghost line. I remember searching for a bridge. ahead and move on to the next ghost line. Legend goes. Okay, and go ahead and move on to the last ghost line now. Somewhere in there is a lesson. Okay, go ahead and come to a stopping point wherever you are. Write your last line, get your last few thoughts out. Okay. How was that process for y'all? Let us know in the chat The last time we did ghost lines, I think I read a few poems. I don't remember from whose book I read that time, but we read a few poems together, and then we went straight into writing. But this one, I feel like this workshop, I feel like feels different to have gotten blessed by JR at the beginning of the workshop and then go straight into writing after that. So I'm just curious what that felt like during those ghost lines just now. Alan, can I ask how this writing process was for you this time around?
Absolutely. I think that hearing JR's poetry really opened my writing process up for today because of how imaginative and precise every poem was and how diverse the reading today was. And these ghost lines are as diverse as the reading, so it just felt like there was a breadth of experience that I could pull from, but also there was I think that JR opened me up for an imagination, right? Of like, even if the imagination is not rooted in experience, it's still coming from me. So it just felt refreshing to be like, okay, let's get in.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I hadn't thought about that. But I did really enjoy I enjoyed really all of the poems. But specifically what you're talking about imagination and possibility, but still being rooted in like still having a relationship to the self. And the poems I felt like really came through in the last series of poems about JR's Graham and the hip hop videos. Yeah, yeah. Um, Someone we got a comment that said, "Wow, that was awesome! Like free fall in an amusement park. That's great." I'm so glad to hear that. You know, sometimes writing it like doesn't feel great or it's like difficult, and sometimes it comes out more easily than you might have expected. So that's really cool too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering. I'm wondering how folks feel if like would y'all prefer to go straight into the next set of ghost lines and do some writing, or would you prefer to bring a few people on and maybe share what they wrote during this first set of ghost lines? Let us know in the chat. Do you want to keep writing, or do you want to take a break and hear from some more people? Yeah. I'm really excited about this workshop. We've never quite done anything like this before. And yeah, I don't know. I'm still like very excited. I really enjoyed hearing those poems. I dropped it in the chat, but if you want to support JR's work, you can donate to them on Venmo. I'll drop it in the chat again. It's JR-Mahung on Venmo. And we have the link to purchase their chapbook is in the YouTube description box as well if you want to read some of those poems later on. Yes, thank you, Alan. Okay, I'm just taking a moment to look through folks' comments to see how people are feeling. I'm really glad y'all enjoyed JR's poems too. We did as well. Okay. It looks like most folks want to hear poems from other people. So the way we can bring people on is that if you just send us a DM on Instagram at Write With Us Live, Alan will be looking through the DMs and communicating with y'all directly to send you a link to join the live stream. So if you wrote something during this first round of ghost lines that you enjoyed, even if it's not totally like coherent, it's totally okay. This is very much part of what the writing process is. We'd still be down to hear from you. So just send us a DM on Instagram at Write With Us Live. And while people are doing that, Alan, do you mind if I ask if you want to read maybe a portion of what you wrote during the first round of ghost lines, or just talk about like where your mind went?
Yeah, I think that the first two ghost lines, I was just kind of writing like stream of consciousness, and then it started to kind of form a story. So I'll read the second half of what I wrote. Okay, I'll start from the third ghost line. I remember searching for a bridge connecting 4-year-old me to 500 years of lies or truths or lies made into truths. I don't want to tell a lie, so I hold my breath and scream inside my mouth. Legend goes that the most beautiful lies are the ones that allow us to survive, to live, to insist breath on air, fire on land, love on water. I think my mother is a legend, a beautiful one whom not all should have the privilege to hear. I too am a legend. Somewhere in there is a lesson of a child who learned to lie to survive, a story about a lie that went too far that all believed. Somewhere in there is a lesson about illegality and fugitivity, sequestrations and escape, being and unbeing. Somewhere in there is a lesson, and right now, I don't want it. Right now, I want a lie and a truth, a cup of coffee and a donut, a lover and an ex, a friend and a shower. I don't want to tell a lie, so I'll tell you the truth. I'm tired and it hurts.
Wow. I'm wondering how it felt to because you said you were starting reading with the third ghost line, but you also incorporated some of the earlier ghost lines later on into the piece. I'm curious how it felt. How it felt to incorporate the ghost lines into the story that you're building once you figured out what the story was going to be.
Yeah, I think that at the beginning of the first two ghost lines, I repeat, I don't want to tell a lie pretty often. And I was just like, I think that statement or the beginning of that sentence is just so provocative that the repetition just kind of merited itself, I guess. Because every time I read it or I said it, I'm like, okay, well, is that true? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I was just saying thank you.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting too because just as everyone who participates in the free writes to the ghost lines has everyone has their own individual writing process of how you're going to respond to the ghost lines, and if you are building a story or if you're just letting it go wherever it feels like it's going to go. I also have a process for choosing ghost lines. I try to choose ghost lines that are not super definitive, that are open-ended enough to where you can also disagree with the statement or with the line if it doesn't serve your writing process or what you're trying to say. So I feel like that's also something I look for when I was trying to find the ghost lines for today's workshop. I was like, there are so many wonderful lines in this chapbook, but some of them are statements, right? And some of the statements are not true for everyone. So I was like, that can't be a ghost line. It has to be a little more open than that. So it's really interesting to hear you talk about, almost rejecting some of the premises of some of the ghost lines, as you're working through your piece as well. Yeah. Okay. Like we said earlier, we would love to bring a few folks on to share. And so if you feel so inclined, just send us a DM on Instagram at Write With Us Live, and Alan will be checking those and talking to y'all and sending you the link to join us. I didn't mention this at the beginning of the workshop. I forgot. But if you would like to support this workshop series, you can. This is our Venmo and Cash App handles for myself and for Alan. I'm Ariana the Poet. Alan is Migrant Scribble on Cash App and Venmo. We mentioned it before, but this particular workshop series is not funded or supported by anything. Alan and I just decided we really wanted to do some type of regular workshop series over the summer and came up with a format together and are just donating our time. So we appreciate anything that you can send our way in the meantime. So just wanted to say that. And do we have anyone who wants to join, Alan?
Yes, I am on the process of bringing one person in.
Okay, cool. Cool. I'm looking forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward. So we'll have I guess however many people want to read, and then after that we'll go into the second round of ghost lines. There is a prompt at the very bottom of the ghost line document. I don't think we're gonna have time to get to it today. It's the same prompt actually from the last ghost line assignment, but it'll be different this time because there are different ghost lines. And so if you have time later on and you're like, you know what, I still maybe feel like writing, or you get the writing bug later this week, what you can do is choose one of the ghost lines that's on the document and then write a new poem where you repeat that ghost line throughout the poem, but with a different ending each time. So most of these ghost lines are like the beginning of a sentence. So you would just change whatever the end of the sentence is and have it like repeating like a theme throughout the poem. So it's just a challenge for you later on. If later on you feel like you want to get a little bit more writing done, but just switch it up a little bit. Also, this is our 7th workshop. Next week is going to be the final workshop of the series, which just feels wild. I don't know. It both feels like we've been doing this forever and also feels like we just started recently. Okay, we're about to bring someone on right now. Hi, Lindsay. How are you doing?
Hi. Oh my gosh, I like snatched my do-rag off real quick, so I wasn't on here being raggedy. But hey,
that would have been fine too.
Yeah, this free write was super awesome. I'm so glad I got to do this today. Usually my schedule is like ridiculous, and I've seen y'all doing these awesome workshops like all summer, so I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you. Yeah, it's also so good to see you again. I feel like we also both recently like shaved our heads, you know, just figuring things out. But we would love to hear what you came up with today and how writing that was for you.
Okay. Yeah, this was awesome. I used incorporated every line, so it's a bit long. I'm sorry if I like take up a bunch of time. Just gonna start from the beginning here. I don't want to tell a lie. Almost everybody in my mother's life had a hand in killing her. Took greedy fistfuls of her soft body and blamed it on the cancer. My mother attracted cancer in the form of human beings before she was ever sick. My father, her sisters, her own mother, her children, her almost friends, her past lovers, this entire ungrateful life made a feast of her kindness. Took and never returned. An exact amount, always a profit, always a margin of gain. I want to give it back, but she is no longer here to take. So I steal in her absence, gather all she is owed by way of rage, by way of guilt, by way of never letting a thief lay a hand on her legacy, name her perfect. There was a time when I was willing to wear her skin, to take on all this burden that she has left, and that time has passed. It's passing, a better monument to her, a selfish relic. I am selfish on my mother's behalf, not a whisper of sorry on my mother's behalf, honest on my mother's behalf. I remember searching for a bridge between my mother and I that was not made of her own bursting skin, of her blood and sweat. I could not find one. I lay myself there instead, stretched for myself to hold my mother's hands as hasselessly as possible, only after she could not move anymore. And just as the ends of me reached the ends of her, she was gone. What ironic justice. Legend goes, the moment you learn to treasure an invaluable love, it disappears. I loved my mother whole when it was almost too late. And I only rest on the shred of truth that she knows, that she gave me her final forgiveness to hold on to in the absence of her hands. Somewhere in there is a lesson, a calling on myself to love more, but only when it is not dangerous, to honor, but loudly when the honored are still in reach, to teach all my children how to be and not be destroyed by it. My mother was my greatest lesson, and the learning did not end with her.
Thank you. I'm still processing.
I'm sorry, that was a little heavy. I should have gave a mini warning.
How do you feel, first of all?
Good. Ironically enough, I feel like I lost my mom in January of this year, and of course, a lot of what has to do with my art in general has now been completely centered around that process because I'm still like unfolding and obsessing over it. But anytime I can be honest about a new part of it, it feels important. It feels cleansing. It feels affirming. So I feel like this free write was really important because it got me to explore another part of this grieving process. Sorry, I'm tearing up. I'd be crying anywhere. But it was, it felt good. It felt good and it felt important.
I feel like that came through too, like the importance of what you were saying. It almost sounded like as you were reading everything that these are things that have been maybe swirling around in your brain for a little while, because there was such a clarity with how not only the lines that you wrote but also the way you spoke them. Like I got the impression that you were very sure of what you were saying, that every line was quite precise. So this wasn't like necessarily like one of those free writes where you're just kind of like wandering around. Like you were very clear with what you wanted to say and how you wanted it to be received, and I felt like that came through. Yeah, and there were so many lines that I wanted to latch onto. I can't even list all of them, but I was thinking about like what it means for like Black folks, for Black like gender marginalized folks to say like I am selfish on my mother's behalf. You know, there was also the line you said about like learning to like love only when it is not dangerous. Like there are clear boundaries I feel like that you're setting in this poem and naming the importance of too at the same time, that I felt like was really, really powerful, and kind of amazing to watch.
Thank you. Okay, so I escaped, about to disappear.
So many thoughts, but I will sit with them a little bit more because I think Ariana is so right. It feels like you were ready to write this, and it kind of felt like a retelling of sorts, or telling out loud of something that you have known to be true. That's what, as an audience, as somebody who like heard it, that's how it felt like. So I am just grateful for you allowing us to witness you.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much for making spaces today. This felt really good. I haven't been able to like sit down and just write, especially like with this really cool format in a really long time. So I appreciate y'all.
Word. That's super real. Yo, thank you so much for hopping on, Lindsay. This was just really great. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care. Bye. Y'all are such good writers. Maybe want to throw my pen across the room. Okay. Wow. Still processing. I feel like the every piece that people have shared today has just been so nuanced. Like I feel like it's none of the poems I feel like that we've heard today have been about just one thing. There have been so many layers and everything. So it's just, you mentioned earlier, Alana, that you were still processing. I'm still processing also everything that has just been offered. Do we have anyone else who wants to join in and share?
Yes, we have one person who is about to log in.
Okay, perfect. I think maybe after this person, we can go back into the ghost lines. Oh, wow. This has been so great. I couldn't have imagined this going better.
Same.
Like I feel so emotionally full. Like low key, I just want to like sit down and cry. I don't know if y'all have ever been to like one of those like poetry readings or performances where like everything is so good and so precise and like the emotion is there and like you feel it as the person is feeling it and like you just want to cry because it's such, I don't know, for me, I always describe it as like feeling super alive, like very present. Yeah. Wow. Lindsay, if you're still here, if you're still watching, Sarah in the comments wants to know how they can find your work. So maybe let the folks know. All right, looks like we are about to bring someone else on to share what they've written. Oh, I'm so excited to hear from y'all. I feel like the other cool thing about Ghost Lines is hearing how each person responded to them differently. You know, how they show up differently in different people's writing.
In order for us to bring you in, the server is saying that you have to connect your microphone and video camera. You have to approve it before. Oh, this is not for anyone on the YouTube. This is for our comrade who's joining.
Oh, and I just wanted to say too, because I know Lindsay mentioned that she had been wanting to come to the previous workshops, but just hadn't had a moment. I feel like I know of a few folks who have been interested in attending this workshop series, but for time constraints or whatever, we're not able to attend the earlier ones. It's just a reminder to everyone watching that all of our workshops, after we air them live, they get automatically uploaded to YouTube. So if you missed a workshop earlier, or if you just want to go back and hear the prompts again and write something different, you can always access the old videos for the previous workshops. They will be on YouTube like forever until like YouTube shuts down or the end of the world happens. I don't know, whichever one's like first. But you can always go back and find the old videos, and we are in the process of captioning them. I believe the first three might already have captions, and we're working on captioning the rest of them as well. I think we might be having a few like technical difficulties. What's up, Alan?
Yeah, we're talking on the Instagram, and it says that something with live stream where we host the reading won't let them change their settings. So I'm just, maybe we can try again in the next round.
Okay, I don't know if we have time to share twice today.
Got it.
But I wonder maybe if whoever you were bringing on to share, if they would be okay with one of us reading their piece aloud. As well for today, if there's anyone else who like wanted to share for either this round or for the next round of Ghost Lines, I don't think we're going to have time for sharing. So if you write something in the next round that you're like, oh, this was so great, I wish I could have shared that earlier, you can always send us a DM on Instagram with the piece that you wrote. And if you scroll on our Instagram page, you'll see we've already started sharing other people's writing from the earlier workshops, so that people, so you can see what everyone else is writing, how everyone else has responded to the prompts. So you can send us your poem and we can post it on our Instagram as well if you didn't get a chance to share today.
We are a little behind on posting all the poems that have come in. I take accountability for that, but know that your poems will be posted. Thank you.
That's our PSA. It's also a pandemic and a million other things going on right now. So Alana and I are also trying to take care of ourselves outside of the labor that goes into putting together this workshop series as well. But we do see your poems. We do appreciate every message you send us, and someone is reading them also. So just a heads up. I think we should maybe go ahead and get started in the second round of Ghost Lines. We have enough time for that. So let's go ahead and do that. We can add. All right, so we're back to the Google Doc. Alan, if you don't mind scrolling down a little bit on the Google Doc so we can see the second round of Ghost Lines. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to get right back into the Ghost Lines. So, same thing as before. I would like to challenge you to have this, whatever you write to the second round of Ghost Lines, as a separate piece than whatever you wrote for the first round of Ghost Lines. And it seems to be helpful, I think, for people to continue to just respond to the ghost lines um, like you're not writing 5 separate poems, like just one long poem, and just follow the ghost lines in and see where they take you. So the first ghost line for this second round is, there are rules in life. So just write, there are rules in life on your paper, finish the line, keep writing, and I'll let you know when to move on to the next one. Okay, go ahead and move on to the next ghost line. There aren't any good days. Okay, go ahead and move on to the very next ghost line. Something to cast out bad spirits. Now you could also use this as the end of a line as well. So whatever feels more comfortable. Okay, go ahead and move on to the next line. You know how people are is the next line. Okay, go ahead and move on to the very last ghost line. I think I am a river. Okay, go ahead and come to a stopping point. Finish your last thoughts, finish your last line. Okay. I'm curious what that process felt like for y'all the second time around. So if you can let us know in the chat how it felt to write to these ghost lines. Maybe your experience was different than writing to the first set. Alan, I would love to ask you what your process was like for responding to the second round.
This is great. I feel like this is gonna sound a little too intimate, but like you blurred my chapbook, and this literally feels like a poem that should have been in that chapbook. Like, I don't know how many minutes you gave us, but I literally feel like I just have to revise this piece and be like, this is the accompanied piece to this thing that's already been produced, but it needs to live with it.
I mean, that's so funny to me because I feel like writing is often that way, right? Like, especially if you put together like a collection of your poems or your work or whatever that's like centered around like certain themes, that doesn't mean that you're done writing about them. You know, even after that collection it has been, published or put together or whatever. It doesn't mean that those ideas or like the impetus behind like the need to write those things has changed or disappeared in any way. That's so funny. It sounds like it was productive for you though.
Oh yes, I'm so thankful and happy.
Oh yay. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm wondering how other folks responded to the second round of ghost lines as well. And also noting that we are coming up on time. So I would love to hear like how folks responded to the second round of ghost lines. Kevante, I believe, says sort of difficult, felt more prosaic than poetic. Not sure if that's a good or bad thing though. I definitely am not someone who like distinguishes between poetry and prose, because then there's also like prose poetry. It's just very confusing. I just feel like if you feel like it's a poem, then it's a poem. But I feel that as well, that the style of writing kind of changed. Wada says, I agree, it was a bit harder this time. And sometimes it's just like, sometimes folks just lose their steam, when you're writing the first round of ghost lines, it's the beginning of the workshop, you have a lot of energy, and then sometimes you're just like pooped by the second round. And that's okay too, Christina says, these ghost lines had a lot of energy in them and brought me to really interesting spaces. And I'm really happy with what I got out. Oh, that's awesome. I'm happy for you too, Christina. Yeah, that's wonderful. Infinitely Finite 8 says, it felt fantastical. I wasn't really grounded. I didn't self-edit. It just flows and I didn't make it make sense. I love that for you. I love that for you. Yeah, we definitely don't need to edit as we go. Karen said, or Get In says, I had a harder time with these ghost lines too. I wrote a lot more the first time around. That's real. That's real. And, sometimes your body is like, I don't have nothing else to say today. And, that's cool too. That's cool too. Okay. Thank y'all for joining us for that. I just want to say again really quickly, if you are interested, if you enjoyed the poems that JR shared with us at the beginning of this workshop, which I know I did, you can grab a copy of their chapbook, which they read some of the poems that are in that chapbook. And I just dropped the link for that in the chat. So definitely check that out if you enjoyed those poems. You can hit up JR in Venmo at jr-mahung. And all that information is also in the YouTube description box as well. And if you have been getting a lot out of this workshop series, Alana and I also appreciate donations, or you can also just follow us online and stay engaged with us and our work. So you can find us on the internet, literally everywhere. Was it Instagram, Twitter, Venmo, Cash App at Ariana the Poet and at Migrant Scribble. So that's how you can stay connected to us. Alan, do you have, or maybe do you want to talk about the workshop you're facilitating for next week, our very last final workshop?
Yes. So next Sunday, our last workshop is Poems for the Future. We will be talking about the worlds that we want to live in, not necessarily as what we're striving for, but like what is already in the present. So like thinking about ways to also think of the present as a future and also think of a future. I'm excited. I think I know what we're going to be reading, and it's pretty fun and multi-texture. So come through, let all your friends know. It's kind of like a celebration. So, you know, like to prepare for next week, just like have your favorite little treat, like, you know, whatever that is, a Kit Kat bar or tea or whatever, you know, come ready to say farewell, but also like, don't make it sad.
Don't make it sad. I feel that we got enough of that. We're super excited. I'm really excited for your workshop next week, Alan. And like I said, that will be our final workshop in the series. And Alan and I can talk about maybe other kind of programming we can put together in the future. But for now, thank you so much for writing with us today, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Yes.
Bye.
See y'all. Take care.